All right, guys, today we're going to be talking about the first two civilizations that settled in Greece in that area. The very first one are called the Minoans, and the ones that come after them are called the Mycenaeans. And so we are going to be talking about them and where they started and what we know about them, because these are the first people that settled in this area. And they actually didn't settle on the mainland peninsula of Greece. They settled on this island, the big island of Crete. The island of Crete is southeast of Greece's mainland, so it would be kind of up here. I'm going to take a little trip, if I can, here to Google Earth, and it will show us exactly where Minoan civilization or Crete is. So here is where the Minoans actually settled. This is the ruins of what's left of them. I'm going to scooch out for a second so you kind of see. There is Crete, that big island. There is mainland Greece. So mainland Greece is here. This is where Athens, you can see, develops here. Sparta's over here. But we're going to be talking about the Minoans first. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. There we go. Takes me a minute to get in there. These ruins are what's left, and it's basically what we know about the Minoan civilization. You can take your little peg man, it's right here. You can drop it in any of these places so you can kind of see what's left of the ruins. And we're going to zoom in right here. Look at that. That's pretty cool. What's left is buildings, palaces, and we're going to tell you about what archaeologists have learned from these buildings. That's part of their palace right there. What they've learned from these buildings and the archaeological digs of this area. You can see the hills in the back. Again, most of Greece, even the islands, are somewhat rocky. So there you go. That is some of it. And again, of course, you can pick a different place to drop your peg man. All these little blue dots are places that you can go. Oops. Did I do it right here? There we go. Sometimes it just takes a minute. Just another view of the palaces. But as you can see, look at the stonework. Very, very pretty. Very good job. This was a long time ago, so anyway, I'm not going to spend too much time looking through here, but you can see these are the ruins of what's left of the Minoans. So those ruins were discovered, take the little thing off, in the 1900s. It was a grand palace that was in the center of the Minoan civilization. They weren't Greek. Take that off. They weren't Greek, but the civilization was the first in the region that later became Greece. So Minoans weren't known for actually being Greece, but they did bring with them a lot of the things that became part of Greek culture. And we're going to talk about that in a second. The Palace at Knossos really revealed riches of an ancient society. And here's just some pictures of the same thing I just showed you on Google Earth. Steps. Some of these are streets. That was a picture of that little chunk that I told you was the corner of the palace. You can see it right here. Another picture of the ruins. There's that chunk of the palace wall there. The palace had twisting passageways that led to many different rooms, private quarters for the royal family, and storerooms packed with oil, wine, and grain. There was also workshops for making jewelry, vases, and small ivory statues. The palace even had bathrooms. Now, the only other place that we've talked about this year that actually had bathrooms was India, when we talked about the Harappan civilization. And we don't know much about them, but we do know they had bathrooms, which didn't come to the United States or even got settled up here until like the late 1800s, 19th century. So it's a big deal that these places had bathrooms. That's the inside of the throne room. And just another picture of some doorways. They say this is a bathroom. I don't know, but never been there. So these cities these civilizations had cities that were governed from the great royal palaces. They left behind written records, an image of which you can see in the background there. But we don't know much about them. And the reason why is the same as the Harappan civilization. We have their language. We have no idea how to read it. we haven't cracked the code yet. So just like if we had not found the Rosetta Stone, we would understand what hieroglyphs meant. It's the same as this writing back here. We have no idea what they're saying. So what we know about the Minoan civilization is from writings of other people. So when the Greek language becomes part of the written language, we can read that. And what the ancient Greeks have written about them, we know some stuff from them, and obviously from what we learned through archaeological digs. There are also very many. There are also a lot of myths or very old stories told to explain events or justify beliefs and actions. So here again, another view of the Minoan civilization. Around 1415 BC, 1450, not 1415. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading today. The Minoan civilization suddenly collapsed. They have no idea really 100% why, but there are some theories. One of the theories is there was an undersea earthquake that caused a giant tsunami wave that washed away the Minoan cities, which is possible because they're on an island. Others think the Mycenaeans, which we're going to talk about next, came into Greece and just destroyed the city, took over from there. So once the Minoan civilization declines and ends, the Mycenaeans come in and settle. So that was around 2000 BC. So remember, the other one ended around 4000 or 1450 BC. This one's around 2000. The Mycenaeans first came in from Central Asia. So you have a kind of a mixing over of the Mycenaeans and the Minoans are kind of together at the same time for just a little bit. They invade the Greek mainland, they conquer a lot of the people there, and they set up villages throughout Greece and spoke an early version of the Greek language. Now, this is why we know more about the Mycenaeans, because they spoke Greek, and we can obviously read Greek because Greek is still a language that is used today. There is an example of their writing. I call the Mycenaeans the great copycats. Just for an example, this is what they believe the Minoan civilization, the palaces would have looked like. This is what they believe that the Mycenaeans look like. But they adopted Minoan culture after invading Crete. So they came in, they're like, I like what the Minoans are doing. I'm going to take that. And that's what they did. They copied their art, they copied their architecture, they copied their religion, they copied their writing, trade, metalworking, and shipbuilding. They took all of their ideas and they used them. Elements of the Minoan and Mycenaean cultures become part of the foundation for Greek civilization. So these are what basically set up Greek beliefs in their gods and goddesses. They brought in the Greek language, their architecture, what they're known for, and we'll see lots of examples of that as we go through, like their columns and things like that. Their ships, they had a very distinctive style of ship that they used that we're going to learn about called triremes. These are all set up by these early civilizations. Here is another look at some ancient Mycenaean towns. The Mycenaeans were aggressive and they conquered the Minoans about 1450, if you want to believe that theory. They took their treasure, their land, their people, and their palaces. At the center of each Mycenaean kingdom, there was a palace. Like here, you can see a palace. And then if you can see, the shape of the city is different than the Minoans. But if you can look at the buildings, they're very similar. And I kind of will go back so you can see those buildings right there? Very similar to the buildings here. Okay. So each one was built on a hill, and each palace was near farms, and the land belonged to nobles. So all this, I'm gonna move my face. There we go. All this land would belong to nobles, and then the kings or whatever live in the palace. Slaves and farmers would live on the land that would belong to the noble, and the palace was homes to artisans and government officials. My face. There we go. While most farmers lived in simple mud brick houses in the countryside, important officials, artisans, and traders lived in 3-story houses in the cities. Mycenaean kings gave elite warriors fine houses and lands to rule, and everyone else worked to support the warriors. Trade made the Mycenaeans wealthy. They sailed to Egypt and southern Italy. They had great location for trade, and Crete right there. They were right on the Mediterranean Sea. If you remember looking at that map, the Mediterranean Sea is all around Crete, so they could just get right into that trade superhighway and go to places like Egypt and Italy very easily. The Mycenaeans started worshiping the Earth Mother. That's the Minoan's chief goddess. And as we get into Greek, well, we're not going to get super deep into Greek mythology, but if you like Greek mythology and you read about it, you know that the 12 main gods and goddesses, a lot of them are brother and sister. They came from the Titans, which are children of, one of them is the Gaia, who is the Earth Mother. Again, this all starts from the Minoan civilization, their religious beliefs, Minoans and Mycenaeans. So again, this came from the Minoans. Mycenaeans took it because they're the great copycats, and then it blossoms into what we know as the ancient Greek religion today, the gods and goddesses that are used in all kinds of fantasy writing still even today. By 1200 BC, Mycenaeans were in trouble. There were earthquakes and fighting among the kingdoms, and it destroyed their hilltop forts. By 1100 BC, the Mycenaean civilization collapsed. And that's when you get into the Greek city-states, which will be our lesson for next time. We're going to be learning about two main Greek city-states that developed after the Mycenaeans. And those two are Athens and Sparta, and we'll be talking about those tomorrow. Well, one of them. We're going to start with Sparta. So have a great rest of your day.